Hello everyone, it's Jen from Old Tinkerer Studio. Welcome to the 10th tutorial of the 3D Game Assets series. In this tutorial, we will be modeling a low-poly sci-fi cargo container asset. This tutorial series assumes that you know the basics of Blender modeling. If you're new to Blender, I would recommend viewing my Blender Basics course before beginning this series. Let's change to Cycles Render and go into orthographic and front view and tab into edit mode. Go ahead and delete the default cube and then add another cube, and this is going to be our container. Select the right top edge and we want to bevel this. Bevel it by 0.1, and then in the toolbar change the number of segments to 4. Now go ahead and select the other 3 edges on the top and bottom of the cube, and we want to bevel them by 0.1 with 4 segments. Now go ahead and select the entire container and rotate it around the x-axis by 90 degrees. Then we're going to scale this base along the z-axis by 1.5. Add 2 horizontal loop cuts and scale them along the z-axis by 2.5. Then go ahead and select all of the faces above and below these new loop cuts. And we're going to extrude them. So Alt E, and we want region vertex normals, and then extrude them by 0.05. Then go ahead and add a horizontal loop cut in the middle of the top extruded section and the bottom extruded section. Then select both of those loop cuts and scale them along the X and Y axes by 1.05. Then select the top and bottom faces of the base and go ahead and bevel them by 0.1. And again, we'll just leave it at 4 segments. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the lock. Let's go in the right side view and add a cube, which is going to become our lock. Then scale the lock by 0.2 and move it to the bottom of the container so that it is sitting on top of the beveled area. Then go ahead and scale the lock along the x-axis by 0.1. Scale it along the y-axis by 3. And scale it along the z-axis by 0.5. And then again, put it back in place, aligning it to the base. Then go ahead and select this top front edge of the lock and then move it down along the z-axis about a 1/20 of a Blender unit. Then select the top face of the lock. Go ahead and bevel this face. We'll put the amount at 0.015 and leave the segments at 4. Go ahead and select the left and right sides of the lock, and then inset them. And then we're going to extrude both of these faces. Hit Alt E, region vertex normals, and then extrude them by -0.02. Then in the right side view, add 2 horizontal loop cuts and add 12 vertical loop cuts. Now on the center row of faces, select the second, third, and fourth face from the left, and then we're going to extrude these along the x-axis by -0.01. Then select this outer edge of the faces that we just extruded, and then we're going to go ahead and bevel it by 0.01, and we'll just go ahead and leave 4 segments. Then is in the center row again, from the right side, we're going to go ahead and select every other face, starting with this second one in, and make sure that we have 3 faces selected. We're going to extrude them along the x-axis by 0.01. Make sure you have the front faces selected and bevel them by 0.01, and again we'll just use 4 segments. Now we're going to work on the top and the bottom of the container. So select the top face and the bottom face. Now we're going to extrude these along the z-axis. So go ahead and hit Alt E, region vertex normals, then extrude them by -0.1. Now go ahead and add a cylinder, and this is going to be our support structure. Make sure that the cap fill is a triangle fan, and we'll leave it at 32 vertices. And go ahead and move it up until it is aligned with the very top of the container base. Then go ahead and select the bottom vertices of the cylinder and move them up along the z-axis until it's aligned with the bottom part of this extruded section at the top. Then select the entire support structure and go ahead and scale it along the X and Y axes by 0.3. Then we want to select the 4 center edges on the top, bottom, left, and right side of the support. Once you have them selected, again Alt-E, region vertex normals, and extrude them by 0.65. Now go ahead and select the very center of this support structure, and we're going to inset it by 0.5. Then on the extruded parts, select the very top faces. Then go ahead and inset them by 0.05. Then we need to extrude these faces down along the z-axis by negative 0.05. Select the entire support structure and duplicate it, then rotate it around the x-axis 180 degrees, and then align it to the bottom of the container. Now we're going to work on the sides of the container. So select all four sides of the container. And then inset them by 0.2. Bevel all four of the faces by 0.05. And make sure your segments are changed down to 1. Then go ahead and select all of these inset faces that were just created. And we're going to extrude them. So Alt-E, region vertex normals. And then we're going to extrude them by negative 0.05. Now go ahead and select all of the edges of this inset face. And we're going to go ahead and bevel them by 0.1 and change the segments back to 4. Now we're going to make these side supports, so add a cube. And go ahead and scale it by 0.2. Then scale the side support by 0.1 on the y-axis and align it to the front center of the face on the very front of the cargo container. Add 2 horizontal edge loops and scale them along the z-axis by 2. Add 2 vertical edge loops and scale them along the x-axis by 2. Then select the entire center support and rotate it around the y-axis 45 degrees. Then select the top 2 center faces along the edge. And then extrude them along the z-axis. Then scale them along the z-axis by 0 to flatten them out, and then continue to extrude them up until they are inside the beveled areas. Then we need to repeat this process with the other 3 sides. On the 2 faces on the side, you just scale along the x-axis at 0 to flatten them out. Now select the entire support structure, duplicate it, and then place it on the back of the container. Then go ahead and select both of these supports. Make sure that your cursor is still centered in the middle. If it isn't, you can hit Shift S and then cursor to center. Go ahead and duplicate these 2 support structures and then rotate them around the z-axis by 90 degrees. And then make sure that they are properly placed on both sides. Add 2 vertical loop cuts between the edge of the bevel for the inside and the edge of the bevel for the outer container. And do this for each side. Okay, so now we're going to add some materials. So open up your Materials tab, add a new material, and we're going to call this Blue Glow, and give it a blue color. I'm using the hex code of 1D9FE7. And change your surface from diffuse to emission. Then go ahead and select the front faces of these extruded buttons. And the inset panels that we just made, as well as these center loop faces that we just made in the last step. And go ahead and assign the blue glow color. Make a new material and we'll call this Red Glow and give it a red color. I'm using the hex code of E73440. And again, change the surface from diffuse to emission. Then select these inset faces on the lock and assign the red glow material. Make a new material and call it lock. We're going to give this a yellow color using the hex code of B49B44. And then go ahead and select the lock. And remember, deselect the red and blue sections that we already assigned. And then assign the lock color. Add a new material. We'll just call this black. And give it a black color, which is the hex code of all zeros. Then go ahead and select the top and bottom extruded faces, except for the top and bottom inner face. Make a new material and we'll call this metal, and assign a gray color to it. I'm using the hex code of 9E, 9E, 9E. And select the rest of the model and assign this gray material to it. Tab into object mode and go ahead and delete the default material. Then tab back into edit mode. Then split your viewport into 3 sections. Make one a node editor and the other section a UV editor. Then select the entire model and using your space bar search for light map pack. Click on new image and change the image size to 1024. Click OK. Then in the UV editor, click on new and go ahead and give your UV map a name. Click OK. Make sure that you have blue glow selected, and in the node editor go to add texture, image texture, and beside open click on the arrows and open up the UV that you just named. Make sure you have the image texture node selected. Control C to copy it and then paste it on the other materials. Once you have all of those nodes pasted, go to your Render tab, scroll down to the Bake section. We'll just leave it as Combined since these are flat materials, and click on Bake. Once everything is baked, don't forget to click on Image and Save as Image so you can export the baked UV that you just made. There's your low poly sci-fi cargo container. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions or suggestions for tutorials, please leave a comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good day.